Okay, hey sixth graders watching this. When you think back to all the way back at the beginning of the year, the first thing you guys dove into after getting some warm-up stuff done was area and how to calculate area, decompose figures, and solve area. That's a main standard in sixth grade math. So we are just going to focus on the key relationships of area. Now, I know you just got done with doing your 5 to 10 minutes of your warm-up activity, which was rooted heavily in multiplication, because guess what, guys? Area is rooted heavily in multiplication as well. Now, when we're talking area, we might as well throw into there perimeter as well, because that is kind of like I like to think of perimeter as being the distance the distance cousin of what area is. Area is the distance, or all the space that is inside a figure. It's something that we calculate a lot, where perimeter is like the distance around something. Okay, so that's the main difference. Area is all the space inside. Perimeter is the distance around something. So let's take a look. If I was looking, let's say I have a rectangle that looks like this. Okay, and we'll say that I got my ruler out, or I just use my magical math ability to say that this guy was 9 inches across by 4 inches here. Okay, now if I was looking to find the perimeter of this, okay, I'm looking at the distance around. And when I'm looking at something around something, I'm not going to be multiplying, because that would be like grouping the distance around, which isn't what we're doing. In this case, the distance around would be 9 plus 4. We're dealing with the rectangle, so this guy must be 9 inches too, and that guy must be 4. So we're going to go 9 plus 4 is 13, plus 9 is 22, plus 4 is 26. So my perimeter would be 9 plus 4 plus 9 plus 4, which equals 26 inches. Okay, 26 inches. Now my area, however, is a multiplication problem. And one of the ways you always see it presented is length times your width, which is a great way to think about it. I like to think about it as just side 1 times side 2, because sometimes you're, depending on how we think about length and width, you're thinking about different things, and sometimes it gets confusing. But however you think about it's fine. It's just a multiplication. Side 1 times side 2, or my length times my width. So in this case, my area, we'd be looking at, my area would be my length times my width, and that would be, in this case, 4 times 9. And when I dust off all my awesome multiplication prowess, I'd go 4 times 9, and I would get 36. Now, since I'm multiplying 4 times 9, I'm also doing inches times inches, which, since we don't know what an inch actually is, we're just going to leave it as inches. And then we put this little 2 right there, and that stands for square inches. Okay, so it's here, when you do perimeter, it's just inches by itself, but when you do area, since we're multiplying everything, it becomes square inches, or it's also known as 36 inches squared, is another way we could think of it. Okay, all of it means the same thing, and this is the stuff that the test makers love to trip you guys up on. Okay, so that'd be the area of a rectangle. Another thing that's super important, especially as we talk about decomposing shapes, so I'm going to throw it at you today, would be the area of a triangle, which a triangle looks like this. There's a right angle in here. But if there's one thing I do know about triangles, triangles are really just half rectangles. So if length times width is my area of a if length times width is my area of a rectangle, then the area of a triangle, there's my little triangle, would be, since a triangle is half a rectangle, it'd be 1/2. The test makers and the equation makers always say base times height. I always like to just leave it as length times width, but to be consistent, we'll leave it like 1/2 base times height. So here, if my height is 7, and my length is 8. Okay, so if I have 7 inches here and 8 inches here, I'm just going to plug that into my equation. A equals 1/2 times 7 times 8. So in this case, my A would be equal to 1/2. 7 times 8 is 56. So my A then is going to be equal to 28. Okay? That's all you're practicing today as we review those. Tomorrow we're going to get a little more intensive when we talk about decomposing shapes, and we're just going to be working on areas for the rest of the week. Like I said, we're just going to ratchet it up a little bit. This is just review of what you started with in 6th grade math. So do your best work. There's a matching shapes after this, so do your best to match all those up. And then we're going to do a quick little quizzes. I can't remember what I put in as the nuggets for the quizzes, but do your best on those too. And thanks for taking some time. When you're done with your quizzes, you're done for the day. So if you have a little bit of time left in your math block, feel free to pop back to the academics game and practice your multiplication facts by shooting down aliens. Thank you.